Dead.
Yeah.
It's your sixth zombie film, right? What could you tell the fans about it? How could you set it up for them?
Well, the first 4 films sort of were on a timeline with the situation continually getting worse, and worse. Land of the Dead was sort of 3 years after the event began, and I didn't know where to go from there. You know, Thunderdome or something. You know, I didn't want to get too post-apocalyptic, and I also actually, truthfully, wanted to sort of reclaim the franchise because. You know, I don't have any control over the original 4 films, except to the extent through Image 10 and the very first film, which is limited because that film's in public domain. So partly I wanted to sort of reestablish myself in some sort of an ownership position. And I had this idea that I wanted to shoot something about emerging media. So I had the script for Diary of the Dead, and I said, well, I'll tell you what, I'll set it on the first night and sort of start over. So that's where Diary came from. I wanted to do a film about media, and I figured I was going to use these college kids who were out shooting a film, and I said they wouldn't be doing that if it was 3 years after the thing started. So and it was a perfect opportunity to go back to night 1 and sort of develop a parallel track. This film starts a couple of weeks into the event. It takes a character from Diary of the Dead, a very small character. He's there for about 30 seconds. He's the National Guardsman that holds the kids up in the Winnebago that steals their ship. And it takes him and his 3 buddies off in a different direction. And in the end, they wind up going to an island thinking that it would be safe there. As it turns out, on this island, there are these 2 feuding families. And, you know, the feud never ends. So, as usual in my films, the zombies are just sort of a minor annoyance. You know, you can handle them pretty easily. They don't run. So they're not coming at you, you know, out of every shadow. The problem is the humans, and that's always been I've tried to emphasize that. I've always been sympathetic to the zombies. I mean, you know, they're pretty honest when it comes down to it. They don't lie. All they want is a free lunch. The humans are the ones that cause all the problems, and of course that's what happens in this film as well. So I really had fun with this film. I mean, we wanted to make it sort of look like an old Western, like The Big Country, and so we went widescreen with it and brighter color, and it has a little Western flavor in it. And that's just stuff that I was just having fun with doing that. So the great thing about controlling, being able to control these projects creatively, is that you can play like that and really try to have some fun. So there are a lot of influences, you know, the old Hollywood Western influence, a little Looney Tunes influence. There's some real Looney Tunes moments. We've had a couple of screenings in Europe where, you know, people don't get that, I think. They're a little too straight-faced, so I always remind people it's okay to laugh.
It definitely seems the most comedic, I think, of the 6 films. Would you agree?
I think well, certainly moments of it are, yeah.
Not that it's a comedy, and don't think that horror comedy at all. It's no Zombieland or Shaun of the Dead, but it does have these really light moments.
Yeah, it has a few just, again, I couldn't resist. The old Chuck Jones influence.
Tell us a little about the cast for the film that you've assembled.
Well, it's an all-Canadian cast. I've been working in Canada. I've made my last 4 films up there. And wonderful is a wonderful actor that you all may know from television named Kenneth Welsh, who plays this old leprechaun-like Irish robe. And of course, Alan Van Sprang is the National Guardsman that comes from Diary of the Dead. And the rest are newcomers that you people probably wouldn't know. But it's a wonderful cast. I mean, I think it's one of the best.
How did the budget compare to Diary of the Dead, which was shot pretty low, low budget?
This is low budget again as well. I mean, it's a little more money than Diary, but you know, not by all that much. Not that it would make a big difference. We needed a little more just because it's, you know, all outdoors, out in the country. There's a lot of big scenes, and But I have a wonderful crew of people that I work with up there now. And, it's amazing what you can do without breaking the bank, and you have dedicated people working on the project.
The story also has that Hatfields versus McCoy's thing going on. Could you explain the issue, the conflict between the two clans in the film?
Well, you get the idea that this has been going on forever, that these guys have been feuding, the two families have been feuding forever, and they sort of look for something to feud about. So when this starts happening, when the dead start coming back to life, they almost automatically take opposing views on it. And you'll see what happens with that. I don't want to tip that too much. They wind up on two sides of the fence about what they should do with this problem. And all that does is feed the feud.
After making 5 zombie movies before this one, was it difficult to come up with a new slant? And usually you wait, in the old days, you wait 10 years before you did a new zombie movie. The last 3 you banged out in, 8 years, I think?
Yeah.
Or less, probably less than that.
Less, yeah. Yeah, I think it's only been about 5 or 6.
So, how come you're so inspired, number one, and number two, is it difficult to come up with a new slant with making these films?
Not too much, no. Well, as I said, Diary of the Dead, I had the idea that I wanted to do something about emerging media. So I had that idea, and I figured I'd better do it quickly. I didn't know Cloverfield was happening. I didn't know there were other people doing it as well. So we put that deal together very quickly. I didn't think it mattered because it was no longer part of the same story, and I knew exactly what I was talking about in that film. And then in this film, I started out wanting to just do a broader statement about war, and then all these other ideas sort of grew out of it. And now, one of the big problems we have, I think, in the States or in North America is, we can't disagree without being disagreeable. And this whole anger thing, and everybody's doing it, right? So that became another theme that I wound up using in this film, the idea of mismanagement of anger, and just turning your enmities, just at old issues without being able to look at an argument on the other side. So there's a vital piece of information that they all wind up missing in this film. Because they're too busy shooting everything.
So, are you inspired to keep making zombie films, or are you now itching to do something else after Survival?
Well, Tony, I've been itching to do something else for a little while, but you don't. First of all, let me preface this. I love doing this, and I would go on and do it forever. To some extent, at this point, I think I would take a break. But to some extent, it's driven by business, Diary of the Dead cost so little that it made, and even though it had such a limited release, it wound up making a lot of money. So they want another one. And if the same thing happens to this one, they will want another one. So I will sort of owe it. So there may be one more, depending on what happens with this film. If it does well, there may be one more before I can go and do something else. And if it doesn't happen that quickly, then I'll look. We have several other projects that I'm sort of sniffing around and I'm interested in trying to do.
Well, it's amazing how, of course, you pretty much created the modern zombie film with 1968's Night of the Living Dead, and now zombie films are more popular than ever. Zombieland has already grossed more than any other zombie film in history. It's the highest grossing Living Dead film. That's not really a Living Dead film.
They're not dead.
Yeah, right. So what do you think, what do we owe it to, the fact, the longevity of zombies, and again, they're more popular than ever?
Well, as you say, there's never been a zombie film, dead zombies or infected zombies, that made this much money. So I don't think it's the Hollywood influence. It's not Hollywood driving itself to keep making more. I really think it's video games. It's the influence that has kept this particular creature alive. And there's so many of them, and so popular in addition to 6, 7, 8. And I think that's, they're easy to shoot at, they're fun. I think it's video